sleep, deprivation, death. Hey, it's Coach Vulcan. How have you been? How are you doing? Welcome back to our channel. In this episode, as I mentioned, we're gonna talk about a serious topic: sleep deprivation, death. And actually, it is kind of serious if you've ever wondered if bad sleep during the night and low energy in the day can cause you health problems or maybe even death. Well, in this episode, we're going to talk about the two different types of insomnia when it comes in relation to death, and how bad sleep and low energy in the day might be affecting you without you even realizing it right now. And we're also going to have some fun today with our story. This is the first time watching. I definitely recommend watching some of the previous series, some of the previous episodes. Definitely watch the beginning of episode 1 to kind of get an idea of what's going on this channel. If you're returning though, let's get started. It is today, I'm going to adjust our camera here. We're starting off our episode today with a new character, and it's 1962. We're going back in time. 1962, the year in which John F. Kennedy stood before millions of people and he said, "We choose to go to the moon and do the other things, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win." And by the way, when it comes to challenges, when it comes to sleep, good sleep in the night and having a lot of energy, being somebody who is very energetic, very who has a lot of energy, who has a lot of power and magnetism in your life. This is what we are about on this channel. This is a challenge we are willing to accept. This is a challenge we are not willing to postpone, and it is one that we intend to win. Because think about it, what is the alternative? Being somebody who has mediocre sleep all the time and who has mediocre to no energy at all during the day, and having to settle for that way of life or that way of mediocrity. How pathetic does somebody need to be in order to live a mediocre life, to settle for that? I am disgusted when I even think of people who would settle for a life of mediocrity. So, having that in mind, let's go back 1962, those years when people went to the moon. But we're not going to the moon quite yet. Right now, we're going to a village, actually, in 1962. Imagine we go into a cottage. Imagine a wooden cottage. We enter inside, you and me inside the cottage. You can see the wooden floor. We're stepping on the wooden steps. There's wooden walls, a wooden rooftop above our head, and a wood crackling in the fireplace. But as we get closer to the fireplace, you're not feeling very warm, because you can notice there is just one log in the fireplace, and it's kind of it's chilly up in this cottage. And now let's go to the bedroom. In the bedroom, in a very cold bedroom, you can see a woman, a red-headed woman with eyes as red as her hair, laying there with a brown blanket on top of her, freezing a little bit. What is the word I'm looking for? Her body trembling a little bit. But she's not trembling because of the cold. She is trembling because she hasn't slept the last 7 days at all. And she is feeling in despair. See, things started out for her. Well, before we go into that, actually, as she's laying in her bed, you can also notice there's two more people in that room. There is a little boy, a 7-year-old boy with a hair as red as his mother's, and also his grandmother's. Yeah, his grandmother also had a red hair. He's sitting on a 3-legged stool next to his mother's side, and he's looking very worried at his mother. On the other side of the bed, you can see a man wearing a white coat with different shiny instruments looking at the boy's mother. And as he finishes up, he takes all the instruments, he puts them in the suitcase, he closes up the suitcase and he looks at the little boy. He says, "Little boy, can you please excuse us, son?" The boy, Richard, he looks at his mother. His mother says, she doesn't have energy to say anything, she just nods. Richard gets up from the stool and he goes out the bedroom, closes the wooden door. Clack. And if you were on the other side of the door, you can see now Richard going very quickly, very quietly as a black cat, stepping softly on the boards, going into the kitchen and taking a glass cup, going back, and just as this cup, this tube cup, he takes the open end of the cup, presses it on next to his ear, the other end next to the wooden door, and he starts listening in on what's going on inside. And this moment he pressed the glass on the wooden door, he heard, "This is bad," was saying the doctor. Yes, he was saying it in that accent because I like it. "This is bad." "What do you mean?" was saying Richard's mother. "You have what we in the medical field call, or actually, just to put it in perspective, tell me this, is it correct that the last 12 months you've been having bad sleep?" "Well," said Richard's mother, "yes, I've been having, at first it started slow. I had just one bad night here and there." Yes, but then what happened?" "Well, then what happened is I had more and more bad nights. At first I just couldn't fall asleep. But then I started waking up in the night, and recently I started waking up close to the morning hours also, and now, well, the last 7 days, I feel like I haven't slept at all, which is impossible." "Well, for most people it's impossible, but for a very small percentage of the population there is a sickness, what we in the medical field call fatal insomnia. And there's two kinds. There's sporadic and fatal insomnia. It's caused by these genes in your body. Wait, doc, was saying Richard's mother. "I don't need to know all the details. Just tell me, how do we fix this?" "Well," said the doctor, because it has to do with the genes, there's no actual treatment yet." "What do you mean? What do we do?" Well, there is one treatment, but it's just experimental. "We're gonna try it." You heard a shout coming from the door, and you could see now Richard. He was standing in the doorframe, and his eyes were flash bulbing. They were large as cups, large as this circle right here of the cup. He could not believe what he was hearing. Fatal. He He might have been 70 years old, but he very well knew what the word meant. "What is this treatment?" he asked the doctor. "Well, son, I'm afraid it's not that easy." "What do you mean?" "Well, it costs a lot of money." "How much does it cost?" I'm afraid it costs $5 million. $5 million? But can it help? Well, there is no guarantee, son. But 5 million, we don't have that. "Well," said the doctor, I'm very sorry, son." And he took his black suitcase and he left the room. Richard, he went to his mother's bedside and he asked her, "Mom, what are we going to do?" And Richard's mother said, "There's nothing to do, Richard. I am going to die." And in that moment, if you took from the doctor's suitcase his stethoscope and you put the earbuds in your ears and you took the listening device to Richard's heart, you would hear it breaking. You would hear it just breaking. And I am going to get closer here for a moment because I want to ask you, have you ever felt like you had a breakage in your heart, in your life? Maybe it was a family member that just died. Maybe it was with a friend, in your relationships, a breakage in your business, a breakage in your job or in your life or in your health life. That is how Richard felt in that moment, his heart breaking. And as his face started glistening with tears, with warm, sorry tears falling down his head, looking at the floor, he started lifting his head slowly, and as he did, you could see fire in his eyes. His eyes had become two lit matches. Because Richard had just made the decision. He had made the decision that he's going to become a multi-millionaire. He's going to make so much money in his life that he never has to feel the way that he's feeling right now. And speaking of fatal insomnias, when it comes to fatal insomnia, there are two types when it comes to bad sleep and death. There is a sickness that is generated by genes, what in the medical field they call sporadic or familial insomnia, and that one, there is no treatment for it. You just go on until death knocks on your door and you gotta go 6 feet below the ground. The other type of insomnia that can also be deadly is the one caused by anxiety and stress and worry and all these negative feelings. That type of insomnia, you might ask, well, how does bad sleep lead to deaths? Well, in different ways. For example, every year there's hundreds of thousands of car crashes caused by drowsy sleeping. Think about it, hundreds of thousands of car drivers crash their cars simply because they cannot sleep in the night. And every year, thousands of those crashes, they lead to deaths. That's one way that bad sleep causes death. Another way, it gives people diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and It increases risk of heart attacks as well. So in many different ways, bad sleep, overall, it's just very bad for your overall health. So it is something that if you've thought, it's just a bad night's sleep here and there, if you are somebody who values your health, you gotta take care of it. You gotta take care of your sleep as you would for your heart, because the two are related as closely as keys on a keychain. They're next to each other. Now, let's go back to our story. And as we continue Richard's story from 1962 to present day, I want you to pay close attention, because I'm going to reveal in just a few minutes about the number one cause for bad sleep. And it is a sneaky cause, something that might be causing you bad sleep and bad health and low energy during the day right now without you even realizing it. For most people it does. So let's continue with the story. Now, it's 12 years later. Richard is 19 years old and we are at a shooting range. That's right, we're at a shooting range. You can see Richard wearing a uniform in greens and browns, and he's standing right on the other side of a wooden gate, and there's lots of targets on the other side, and Richard is holding a shotgun. He's looking, you can see him looking through the scope as he measures it up, and he BAM! Fires that shotgun. The smell of gunpowder fills your nose and your lungs, and it fills Richard's also. You can see him breathing in it and enjoying it. And he fires again, and he does. You can see the target. He shoots, the bullet goes right through the middle. He shoots a third time, the bullet goes right through the middle again. Now, it's 5 years later. Richard has been through college, through business college. He's gotten his business degree, and now you can see him in a boardroom, in a big boardroom with 12 men and women wearing black suits and black ties. And Richard is also wearing his black suit and black tie and black shoes. He still has his red signature hair, and he's signing a contract with all these men from the government. He is making a contract with them to sell, to produce shotguns and sniper rifles and granados for the US military. Now, it's 3 years later, and Richard has made contracts with not just the US military, but with the Chinese military, with the Russian military. And now, it is 1 year later. Richard has taken his business and he has made it into a $1 billion empire. Now, we go another year later, and things, now they're starting to get interesting. So Richard, now he is a successful man. He has made his dream, what he said when he was 7 years old, that he was going to take himself and make so much money that he never has to worry about money ever again, or about the good health of anyone he cares about. He would have that security, that peace of mind for himself. Well, he has that. And now he's sitting at his office on a black armchair. He's stretched behind a black lacquer desk. and he has multiple phones on. He has 3 phones on his desk, and one of them rings. A white phone rings. Richard takes the handle, and he hears a Chinese man talking to him on the other side. What is going on? What is going on with the guns? With the guns, they not work. Guns not work. What do you mean the guns not working? Your guns, our men, they go to the battlefield. They start shooting. They press the trigger. Bullet not come. Then as Richard, you can see him getting very confused, and as he's sitting on his chair not knowing what to say, the second phone rings in. So he says, please hold on for a moment. He grabs the handle. Hello, who is this? Niet. Orужия nie arbeida. Not work. Orужия not working. What do you mean? Orужия? Weapons. Grenades. Our men. Our Russian men. Они throw grenades. They do not explode. What is happening? Then the third phone started ringing. Richard said, hold on just a moment. He grabbed the phone, and on the other, and he would hear the US military general from there. The moment Richard heard his voice, he already knew. He said, it's the weapons, isn't it? Yes, said the man on the other. And as he started shouting in Richard's ear, they are not working. What the hell is going on? Our men are in the battlefield right now. They're fighting in the trenches, and your weapons are not working. That contract that we made, consider it ripped apart. It is done. We are going to sue you. Now it's 2 months later, and Richard is in a courtroom. He's standing on the podium, and he's being questioned by a lawyer about why are his guns not working. And Richard, he does not know what to say. He's saying that he himself has gone to that he himself goes typically to the facilities because he enjoys firing guns so much. This is something he did. He would take the guns that they would produce, he would himself shoot them and make sure that they are working well, working properly. So the lawyer was saying, why did this happen? Why are guns in China, in Russia, and in America not working? What's going on? Richard did not know what to say. And now he was being sued by 3 different governments for billions of dollars. Richard's business, he had created an empire. Imagine this. Imagine a man who has spent the last 35 years of his life perfecting, not even a businessman, imagine a cake boss, someone who's perfected making birthday cakes and wedding cakes and bar mitzvah cakes and just celebration cakes. All his life, he spent the last 35 years mastering his craft, and he has been just asked to make the best cake that he can possibly make. And that man has spent all his energy, all his years of mastery to make that cake, and now he holds it in his hands. Imagine Richard was holding that cake in his hands. This was his business empire. It was everything he wanted. And now imagine that cake falling on the ground and someone stepping on that cake and just doing one of these with his foot. That was what was happening with Richard's business empire. It was on the ground and it was being stepped all over by all sides. So what happened? Well, that is when Richard started having bad sleep during the night. Now, you can imagine Richard lying in his bed in his penthouse on a very white comfy pillow with under very warm white sheets, but he cannot fall asleep. He's thinking back to the previous day when he was in the courtroom and all the jurors and the people in the audience, they were looking at him. They were looking at him, judging the deaths of the military soldiers that he had caused, that his guns not firing had caused. And Richard was blaming himself. He was going left and right and left and right, and his thoughts, he tried to block his thoughts, but he could not. They would come back even harder and stronger back, asking him, why? How did you let this happen? Now it's 11th. It's November 11th, which is the day, by the way, of our next episode. If you want to find out what's gonna happen next, definitely tune in for November 11th. We're gonna have an interesting episode that you're gonna find out in just a few minutes when I give you the preview of our next episode. So it's November 11th, and Richard is sitting on a bench in a park. The park is littered with beautiful bright yellow and brown and red leaves. And Richard, you can see his hair, it's not that bright red anymore. It's starting to get a few gray hairs here and there. And his eyes, though, his eyes are looking as red as his mother's looked on that bed when he was 7 years old and he was sitting on that three-legged stool. Richard is sitting on that bench and he's sitting there. He gets his phone, you can hear it ring. He picks it up slowly, takes it to his ear, and he hears a man saying on the other side, Is this Richard? Yes, this is Richard, he said weakly, because he hadn't slept the last 48 hours and he was feeling he had no energy and no power. He was weak and his voice was weak. Richard, I am your wife's doctor from the hospital. I'm calling to tell you your wife just had your baby daughter. When are you going to come to see your daughter? Richard looked at his phone. He took his index finger and he pressed the red button to end the call. And he put the phone back into his pocket. That's right, thought Richard. My wife has our baby child in the hospital. She's been having it the last 72 hours and I completely forgot with everything that's been going on. I should be happy. I should be happy right now, right? I just had a baby daughter. I should be happy and excited and celebrating, but I feel so powerless, so tired that I just want to cry. And Richard, he took the palms of his hands and he pressed his face on his palms and he started weeping. And this, by the way, right there is one of the number one causes for one of those sneaky causes for bad sleep. Stress. Because to our 2 million-year-old brain, it does not make a difference between stress and danger. Somebody could take a shotgun pointed to somebody's heart, and to our primitive brain it would feel, when somebody is very stressed out, to our primitive brain it would feel like somebody has laser scopes, a laser dot beam on that person's heart. That's how it feels. So it keeps that person awake, so that person can deal with the danger. And if you're wondering, okay, so what do we do about it? For practical information, I definitely recommend going to episode 4 in this series. If you've experienced bad nights and you were lying in bed and you were wondering, okay, I'm stressed out, I have anxiety, or whatever negative feelings, I cannot fall asleep, what do? Definitely recommend going back and rewatching that episode. So, continuing with Richard's story right now, he's sitting on the bench, his face is pressed against his palms, he's just had his baby daughter, but he cannot even feel happy for that. He feels miserable. And that is when he noticed a woman sitting next to him. A woman in a black coat with long black boots, a black bun tightly on top of her head, and a dark blue lipstick on her lips. She looked at him and she asked, "What is wrong, sir? Why are you crying?" "Why am I crying?" said Richard. "I am crying because my business is over. My life is over. I had just had a baby daughter, and I cannot be happy about even that. I am ruined." And to top it all off, you know what's the worst thing? Then Richard started getting a little bit angry. "You know what's the worst thing?" "What's the worst thing?" she asked. "For the last 2 days, for the last 48 hours, I haven't slept a minute. All the stress that the money that I'm bleeding out is causing me, and all the suits that I'm being sued for all my money, I cannot sleep." "Well," said the woman, "not sleeping, I hear you, but that's not the worst thing in the world, some bad sleep. Come on, you are a man." "Bad sleep is not the worst thing." Richard now, he broke. "My mother," he said, "she died of bad sleep." "Your mother died of bad sleep?" The woman could not hide her enthusiasm. But then she tried to hide it. "Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. What is your name, sir?" "My name is Richard." "Uh-huh. You are the man with the guns, aren't you? So you've heard." The woman called, if you've watched our previous episodes, you might recognize the name Miseria or Oasis or Despair. She looked at Richard and she got an idea in that moment. She told him, "Richard, I have a little deal in mind for you. How about this? I'm going to help you." "Help me?" "Yes. Those suits from all these governments from America, from Russia, from China, they're going to disappear. All I want from you, you're just going to owe me one small simple favor. How does that sound? Said Richard. I might have not slept the last 48 hours, but I ain't stupid. How are you gonna make these suits just go away? Oasis, she smiled. She said, do you see that nightingale singing over there on that branch? Richard shifted over to the nightingale, and you could see there a small black bird singing cheerfully and jumping from brown branch to brown branch, enjoying the autumn air. And by the way, did you notice me stopping and continuing the recording several times throughout this video? Totally my fault. I had my notes, I placed them right on a chair behind the camera here, so every now and then I have, you can see here, can you see that Sleep Deprivation Death episode 7 right here? And I have all these notes on this side, and then on this side also almost 2 pages. I would go to the notes, I would have to, because I can't see them very clearly from over here, I would have to stop the recording, go down. So now I have my notes for the ending of this video. No more stopping, no more pressing the red square on my phone. So let's see, where are we? Now. Oasis and wrong, sitting on a bench. Not gonna do the KIIS song, it's not very appropriate here. So, Oasis looking at Richard, she says, you see that nightingale over there? And you could see a little black bird on that branch, and Richard also looked at it. It was singing happily, cheerfully, jumping from brown branch to brown branch, just enjoying the autumn air. Now Oasis said, watch this. And as she looked at that blackbird jumping from branch to branch, she snapped her fingers, and as soon as she snapped her fingers, that bird stopped singing. It started flying towards the ground very slowly. It went and stopped. It laid on those leaves on the ground, and he put his head under his black wing, and he just stayed there. Now, said Oasis, our deal. I'm gonna make all these suits that you have, they're gonna disappear. Your empire that's on the ground, we're gonna lift it up, and you're gonna rebuild it. You're gonna become a multi-millionaire once again. Not a multi-millionaire, you were a billionaire, weren't you? That is right, said Richard. You're gonna be one again. You're gonna have your guns, and you're gonna do shooty for those governments once again. They're gonna give you so much money, and you're gonna put a new clause there so that they don't sue you again. This sounds too good to be true, said Richard. What do you want in return? Said Oasis. I don't know yet, but you, a man who's making shooty guns, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna think of something. Here's the deal. I'm gonna come to you. It might be a day from now, it might be a month, it might be a year, it might be 10 years from now, but I'm gonna come from you. When I come to collect, I'm gonna ask you for a favor. Whatever I ask you, you're gonna say yes, no matter what it is. Do we have a deal? Richard was thinking. So, Miseria, or wisest, she said, what do you have to lose? I mean, except for your business and your reputation and your life. What do you, and your sleep? Your business, your reputation, and your sleep. What do you have to lose besides that? Richard thought to himself, yeah, what do I have to lose? He did feel a very bad feeling in his gut about making a deal with this woman, but he also thought about his daughter that he had just heard the news she was just born. He was thinking, what is my daughter gonna think if everybody in our city, in our country, is thinking of me as someone who has caused death to people, as somebody who is a bad man. I don't want my daughter to think of me as a failure and as a bad father, a bad man. I don't want that. This woman is saying she can fix things. So, as bad as I feel, I don't see any other option, so I'm gonna do it. And he told her, we do have a deal. So they shook hands. And that is when things are starting to go bad for Richard. Now, we're gonna end this episode here, and before I give you... there's one more thing, one very important thing. Why November 11th? This is an important date, not just because it's gonna be the date in which our next episode is gonna air on Monday, come back on Monday for that. This is also a very important date because now we're still on the bench right before we end this episode. Wisest is leaving, going through the leaves, and Richard, he gets another phone call. This time it's his wife, and his wife is saying, Richard, did you hear the news? Yes, he said. We just had our baby daughter. What? I was thinking of names, like, what should we name her? I was thinking, how about Julia? What do you think of that name? Richard thought about it and he said, Julia. I like that name. Now, if you've been on the channel for a while, if you've watched episodes 1 and 2 in the channel, that name Julia, it might ring a bell. That is right, Julia is our very first character, the character with which we began the series. And today, we're gonna go back to Julia and see how things are going with her business, which I'm gonna tell you in our preview in just a few moments. Before we go there, before we learn what happens with Richard and his daughter Julia and Oasis, I just want to come here and I want to thank you for watching these episodes, for hanging out with me. We had a wonderful session today. So, thank you, and I'm looking forward to hang out with you very, very soon once again. Again, on November 11th, in just a few days, we are having our next episode. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you get notified as soon as that episode airs. And let's talk about our next episode. Next episode, episode 8. Now imagine we are in a hair salon. Julia, she has just opened her hair salon. It's her 21st birthday, and she's celebrating it by having a grand opening. You can see the hair salon, the pink walls, the nice pink carpet. There is the aroma of pink roses in the air, And as Julia is so happy, she's working with different clients. And then a woman comes in through the door. A woman with a signature tight black bun, tightly on top of her head. And as soon as Julia notices that woman coming in, her smile, her face from a happy emoji goes into a shocked emoji, because she recognizes that woman as the woman who calls her nights and nights of bad sleep. So we're gonna see how things go there, and we're also gonna meet Aaron again. Aaron, he's a man. He is the Batman of the. He's kind of like the Batman of the of cybersecurity. He's working in his Batcave, fighting against different cyber villains, cyber hackers. He's standing. You can see him sitting next or in front of 12 different screens with all kinds of letters and numbers on them. He's typing furiously on a giant long keyboard as long as a piano player's board. And as he's sitting there, as he's fighting against these guys, against these villains of cyber net, you can see one of the screens flashing in bright red for just a fraction of a second, and then it goes back to numbers and letters. Richard doesn't even notice it. But then 20 minutes later, when another screen flashes in bright yellow, for just again a fraction of a second, Richard notices that. He stops for a moment, he rubs his eyes, but there's nothing more, so he continues working. And then another screen flashes in bright blue. This time Richard stops. Aaron stops working. He gets up from his desk. He looks at all the computer screens. And he starts thinking, did I really see those screens flashing? First in red, then in yellow, now in blue? Or am I just getting tired? And as you see him standing there looking at all the screens, all those screens go black.